G'day, Hugh here from vrdesign.com.au, design company based on the Gold Coast in Australia. Thank you for joining me. Today I thought we'd have a look at how you can use Photoshop to create a long exposure effect from multiple images. Normally you could use like an ND filter to reduce the amount of light that's hitting the sensor in your camera to create that long exposure. But you might not have those filters or be able to put filters onto your camera, so you can still achieve this effect by using Photoshop in a few steps, which I'll show you in this tutorial. So let's hop in and see how it's done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take 12 images of about half a second each and combine them together in Photoshop to create a look that's more like 5 or 6 seconds each. Now to do this you need to take the photo from the same spot, so use a tripod and a remote and just take each photo one after the other. So you want an exposure that's going to work for your situation, and then if that's, if it's a third of a second or half a second or even up to a second, it's good. The more you take, the more you can combine them together to create the long exposure look. But first of all, we'll want to edit the raw images first. So we'll come up here and we'll go open, and here they are, the 12 images I want to use. So we'll just Control A to select all and open them up. Now they're open in Camera Raw, which gives us a chance to edit them. So what we want to do is basically edit one and then apply that across the lot to the lot of them. And we'll need to have them all selected. You can go Control A to do that, and we can just make some adjustments. So we can come up in here into the lens correction and just do a little bit of adjustments there, which we will always do. We can come across the basic and just do a little bit of work on the image itself to increase the exposure. It's quite dark. What we'll also want to do is bring that exposure up nice and high, which is really quite nice, and bring down the highlights a bit to about 30 or so, and we'll want to bring down those whites to a degree, maybe increase the blacks a little. Now we'll increase the clarity, which is cool. Really add a bit of vibrance back into it, like so. And we'll leave the saturation for now. Now we can also do a little bit of work here with add a bit of vignetting into it, and just give it a bit of a vignette. We won't do anything with the distortion, like so. Okay, now that has synced up because we've had them all selected. It's actually edited all 12 photos. So we can say done, and we're happy with that. Now the next step is to load these up as layers in Photoshop, all 12. So we come down to Automate, and we come down to Photo Merge. So we want to make sure this is on auto. We don't need any of those selected, just auto. We browse to find the 12 images that we've done our editing on, load them up, make sure blend images together is unselected, and say OK. And Photoshop will go through the process of loading each one of those raw images up as a layer, which is going to be very handy for the effect that we want to do. So once we just have to let this go through its paces. It will take a few seconds to get through 12 images. Hopefully soon that will be done. And the image 1 will be at the very top of the layers, and image 12 at the very bottom. And there you have it. Now, obviously this is going to be quite a large document, and it could slow things down a little bit because of the size. but yeah, we'll just work with that for now and just have a bit of fun doing this. So we're going to just let Photoshop go through, which it has now done, which is very good. So now what we want to do is select all 12 and right click on them like so and say convert to smart objects. So that will give us a one smart object as a combination of all 12. Okay. Now that we've done that, we want to make adjustments to the smart object. So we can come down here and make different adjustments. For example, we could go to the levels and just have a bit of a play around with them, depending on what sort of look we want. Maybe brighten it up a bit, which really looks pretty cool. And we can also add another little bit of work on our exposure as well if we wanted through there. So once we have that in, we need to click on our layer here and make sure it's active, which it is. And now we can go to Smart Objects up here. Layer, Smart Objects, and then we come down to Stack Mode and go to Mean. This is where the magic happens, and look at that. Immediately it's become a long exposure. So I'll just undo that. So there's the image before we applied the stack mode to mean, and then we come to layer, smart objects, stack mode, mean. Around it goes, and then we have an amazing looking long exposure. So now that we've done that, we could also do other adjustments. And it's basically what it's done is it's blended the pixels from the 12 photos together, and that's really impacted on the water, and that is quite an interesting look. So from a half a second photo taken 12 times, we've got a photo which really looks like it's probably been taken for 5 or 10 seconds. So as I was saying, we can double click on I've got that clicked, so that won't show up again, and we could make any adjustments we wanted to the images again further if we so desired, but that's pretty much it, and that's quite effective. It's pretty straightforward. Obviously we can add more, if we wanted to, we could add another adjustment layer and perhaps work on adding a bit more into the green, or make the water blue, depending on what adjustment you really want. Add saturation. Can go overboard a bit there, but there's all sorts of effects we could add to it if we wanted to, but we don't want to in this case, so we'll just delete that. And yeah, so that's basically how it's done. So get out there with a tripod and a remote and take multiple images using as slowest shutter speed as you possibly can. Then take multiple images, get into Photoshop and apply this effect and look at the results. It's really quite amazing. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that, and stay tuned for future tutorials. Until then, I'll see you later.